Hey there. I'm going to go over some capstone and project management notes. Some of you are going to be managing projects for the first time, and I want to make sure that all of them succeed. Mostly because I've got a lot of money and a lot of time that are probably going to be invested in these. So, senior projects and capstones are required to graduate from some departments of Ohio State. Sponsored ones are ones with a budget. They're really good ways of testing out a proof of concept or making a piece of equipment we could use for a study later on. So, what are my experiences or some advice I'd give in working with some of these small student teams? So, each kind of department has its own capstone structure. Electrical and mechanical engineering, for instance, their capstones are 2 semesters. Chemical engineering has 1 semester long capstones. It's meant to be each student's quote unquote real engineering job. A lot of times they'll require guidance, not necessarily marching orders. In other words, mentorship and mediation rather than micromanaging every individual's course of action each week. So each department has its own little capstone class that kind of covers project management and design and a couple of other things. But the lessons that I'm going to give you are largely supplemental to that. So they'll need to meet with you as a project manager once a week to establish their milestones and progress updates. Generically, the 2 semester capstones, the first semester is the ideation, and the second one is when they actually build and test the prototype. For the single semester capstones, the first half is the planning, and the second half is actually building and testing it out. So, how do we best organize and make use of their time? So, beforehand, you should have specified the needs of the capstones. What does success look like? What does failure look like? Even failure would at least show you a method that doesn't work. So, break it into the basic principles of the concept. We kind of break each team, which is about 3 or 4 people to begin with, into as many roles, and one as a team leader. And you write a brief write up or summary. I will provide those to you as necessary. What happens when you actually meet the team for the first time? So, how do you handle the first meeting, whether it's in person or online? Your goal is to build a bit of rapport. Ask them a bit about themselves or what they're interested in. Sometimes that can give you skill sets you might not have considered originally. See if any of them are a bit more interested. And it's also important to designate a leader, at least at first. So, what I typically find is helpful, ask if anyone has work experience, internships, volunteer work, military vets, people who might be a bit more experienced outside of the classes. Delegate that one to the leader, and if there's more than one of students that meets that criteria, just pick one at random, at least at first. Make your expectations clear. Like, what are the deliverables? What are the milestones? Make sure that they schedule weekly internal meetings and have them schedule a separate meeting where they discuss their questions or problems with you. You need to have a weekly meeting with the team where they will tell you what they did last week and what they're going to do next week. Generally, stay calm and relaxed. For me, I like to tell them horrible puns, but you might find different things work for you. So, weekly meetings are generally going to be in the progress of milestones. For example, for chemists, that might be exploring different combinations of substances or different circuit designs, different software implementations for electrical engineering. The first step is going to be a Gantt chart after they do a lit review on the initial topic. So each student is going to ask what they did plus their plans for next week. Some meetings can last about 5 minutes. Some can last 50, depending on. Some might go longer, some might go shorter. Good questions to ask them. Do they have an alternative if their main plan doesn't work? Do they have alternative approaches that they can't think of? How are they researching? Google Scholar, PubMed. What instruments or supplies do they need? Is it going to be big and bulky, a piece of equipment that only exists in one lab on campus, or small items you can get at any department store? How are they going to order them? Normally, purchase orders are going to go through capstone coordinators. Even if we have a piece of equipment we're donating, say from a prior capstone, we're going to clear that with the capstone coordinator beforehand. Each time, help address them as a group. Do not favor or insult any student individually. Now, sometimes there is dysfunction or drama in the group. For serious concerns, tell the capstone coordinator. This would be like creepy stuff, threats, stalking, harassment, worse. There will be appropriate authorities involved in that case. However, for more minor stuff like spirited disagreement on the best way to implement something, that's generally more helpful. That may be where you or myself may be asked to provide more technical domain expertise. Remind them that they must work together. There might be times when two personalities don't quite mesh. There may be outside mediation. So maybe they'll have a mutual friend. Maybe the capstone coordinator can arrange something. But we want to make sure we have a drama-free or at least a functional team where everyone can work together. They don't have to be best friends. They just need to get this stuff done. So, over the course of the semester, check on their supplies, check on how they're doing with milestones and their logistics and planning. For the single semester capstones, it helps to get the purchase orders in as soon as possible, within the first couple of weeks. Otherwise, they're going to be losing a lot of valuable time they can do for testing. Make sure that the milestones have been met, and capstone coordinator will have meetings that you might have to attend. Like in the case of electrical engineering, there might be the PDR, the partial design review, kind of midpoint through the first semester, and then a complete design review at the end of the first semester where they detail what they're going to build that second semester. It can help to go over presentations and reports with the posters before their submission. Like they might send you something over Discord or via email. So each final plan should be ready by the midpoint of the entire project, like the end of semester one. For a 2 semester long project, like in electrical or mechanical engineering, or the midpoint of the semester for the 1 semester projects like chemi, like say spring break or Halloween, roughly speaking. It should be SMART. That is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And plan for them to overestimate, say 50%, their progress by that point. Always assume things are going to go horribly awry, because Murphy was an optimist. Now, after the midpoint, check in on the physical prototype or the software prototype. Make sure they have a test plan at that point, and worst case scenarios. Think of questions about its potential limitations or the use cases. Be sure to thank them and express gratitude and support when they reach each milestone. Don't talk down to them, don't insult them. Just make sure that they know that their efforts are appreciated. At the end, you should have a physical report, a physical or software prototype, including a repository on GitHub or something similar, and notes where another team could pick up, like a future work section. If you're lucky, they could be enough for a research paper, a patent, or something that could lead directly into one. So, thank you for your time.